You're already on, so you might as well be ready.
Hey, folks, you want me to tell them who you are?
Don't tell them who I am.
This is Wild Bob and Ronnie show coming to you from Lafayette, Tennessee. We're in direct contact.
Got a rose here between two thorns.
We are in right up there in the ratings with Fox News, and they are afraid of us.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
Anyhow.
There seems to be a trigger of events that.
Now, well, how are things in the lovely world of concrete?
It's getting harder every day.
Oh, have you run into anybody lately?
Oh my goodness! Don't talk about wrecks. What it was about staying close to your competition. We really got close to our competition the other day. As a matter of fact, we swapped metal and paint.
Right. Right. I wondered why your truck had double
red streaks
on it.
Yeah, big red seat. Yeah.
Had red streaks on it.
Red streaks. That. I'm glad nobody was hurt, and we helped the economy. We sustained about anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000, and I'm sure the other truck did too. So.
Right.
How'd you manage that?
What do you mean? How did we manage to hit?
Yeah.
Well, our truck is about 5 inches to the right of the line, so that kind of gives you some idea.
You mean you going to the same job or?
No, no. We were on the same road, but not the same job, and the road was narrow, no doubt about it. Our operator won't say anything derogatory about anything. He's a good feller. You can't ask for a better fella, but the pictures show that our truck was where there wasn't no road there, as a matter of fact. But anyhow, that's part of it. So we just kind of lick our wounds.
On board cameras?
Not pointing that way. We got them on the back for backing up, but not forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they don't record anything, do they?
No, they don't. They do not record. But anyhow, it's just one of those things. You lick your wounds and go on, I guess. I'm just thankful no one was hurt and whatever.
Well, you can always bury them in concrete and forget about them.
Yeah. Anyhow, gentlemen, there's a lot of things out there to talk about today.
We'll start talking about them.
What do you think about the border?
I think we need one.
I'm hearing stuff, and it's not in your mainline news, but they showed a video there of some of the stuff that's going on, and the information has come out, and I just heard a late piece today that the ICE had put out bids for contracts to transport these individuals or aliens that are crossing the border back in January. I don't know what part of January right now.
Did they mention where they wanted to
transport them? Where?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Where they going to transport them to?
Well, all points in the United States.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Not back where they come from.
No, not back where they come from. But they were taking bids, contract bids, for people to transport. This was in January now. Now, in order for them to put out a bid in January, they had to know about this weeks ahead, because in order to put out a bid, you got to have a committee and people to get together and make a decision. First decision that had to be made is, did they need them? And then they had to make a decision of to bid it, and then put it out soon enough to get bids and whatever. So this tells us that they knew this was coming.
No, you're not keeping up with the times.
Okay.
This is just like the field of dreams. You prepare for them and they will come.
Oh, in other words, well, you're right. In other words, you bid out this transportation and all these logistics, and then they'll come once they find out you've got it in place.
We got everything in place.
You could very well be right.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. I said it in jest, but you know, there's a great deal of truth in that. And if you prepare wholeheartedly for the worst case scenario, then that's what you're going to get, is the worst case scenario.
Well, I feel my kind of opinion of what has went wrong here, and my problem that I have is I'm trusting of people, and I'm trying to get out of that as much as I can. But my think on this thing is kind of like Fast and Furious. the administration, from what I'm hearing, and you don't hear us on mainstream news, but they've been advertising that if you can make it, if you're underage and you can make it to America and get your foot on U.S. soil, then it doesn't make you a citizen, but it entitles you to stay for at least maybe 3 years by the time they get you processed.
Right.
And it seems to me like, well, it has to be. This thing has to be by design that this is happening, because first of all, ICE wouldn't know these people were coming without there was some incentive for them to come. And from what I heard back a few weeks ago, there were advertisements or brochures or leaflets or something being distributed down in Guatemala and El Salvador and places like that as to what I'm talking about making it to American soil. If you're underage, make it to American soil, then you're guaranteed.
They've had them come across as young as 7 years old. You know.
Well, they're even younger than that, but you're talking about unaccompanied.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Or supposed to be unaccompanied.
One person there, and I think we're going to see less and less of this on the news. This one lady, she had one child or two children, but yet there was like 7 or 8 with her that she didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
They just kind of latched on to her.
What we used to call porch young'uns, your young'uns.
Yeah. Well, you know what we used to do? We used to brand them or whatever so we could tell who was belonged to who. But yeah.
I never did brand any young'uns. They're talking about something else. I didn't do that.
I got my ears clipped when I was back then. Not your ear. But anyhow, we're getting off the subject to a certain extent. This is right out.
But there we go. This is according to a website here, Alan West. You know Alan West.
Yeah.
If you think this flood of illegal immigrant children is spontaneous, think again. According to Help Wanted, request for information RFI posted on fedbizops.gov. The feds were looking for vendors to help escort unaccompanied alien children in January of this year. The specific vendor requirements state ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, is seeking the services of a responsible vendor that shares the philosophy of treating all unaccompanied children, alien children, with dignity and respect while adhering to standard operating procedures and policies that allow for an effective, efficient, and incident-free transport. The contractor shall provide unarmed escort staff, including management, supervision, manpower training, certifications, license, drug testing, equipment, and supplies necessary to provide on-demand escort services for non-criminal, non-delinquent, unaccompanied alien children ages infant to 17 years of age, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
24 hours, 7 days a week, huh?
Yeah,
okay.
They were doing this in January.
Okay, and they say 17-year-old.
Well, now, if they're doing this in January, why didn't they tell Mexico, why don't you enforce your southern borders and we won't have none of this problem coming across your country, and we'll take care of your northern border, and we won't have none of your people either.
You know,
This, to me, is a scheme right out of
There it is. That's a federal
Right.
General Services Administration website.
Right.
You know, everything kind of boils down to be really simple when you look at it, analyze it, break it down. And you probably played King of the Hill when you were young,
Mm-hmm.
young men, or played takeaway football, that sort of thing. But for many years, the socialists, communists of our country have been trying to get the wealth of this country spread out throughout the world, okay? And they don't care if they kill the goose that's laying the golden egg, as long as they get the golden eggs and the wealth spread out around the world. Now,
And get to run the show.
Pardon?
And get to run the show.
Yeah, and now they were not all that successful in being able to decimate our economy through our foreign aid and the International Monetary Fund and UNICEF and all the giveaway agencies of the United Nations. They were not really able to decimate us and put us down, put us on our back. So I think what they've done is, if they're not going to be able to carve this pie up and give it elsewhere, then they'll just bring enough third world people in here to carve it up on their own.
And what they're going to do is swamp the system so it'll collapse.
This can do this. This can.
Yes, sir.
One of the articles I read on this thing says that they don't see no end to this. And whenever they say no end, we're talking maybe millions or untold millions or whatever.
Right.
I saw a little clip. This border guard had one person detained. Okay, there's a lake down there that the border runs through the middle of the lake.
Right.
And these jet skis were coming in with people on them, and he's dumping them and taking back off.
Right.
Well, this one border guard or patrol agent, he's there detaining one, and there's 4 or 5 are coming in,
Right.
and they're not even running. They go up here and turn around, walk back down there, and watch what's going on.
They're worse than that little old boy over there in Holland that was trying to put all his fingers into the dikes that was leaking.
These people are coming across that I saw, they were shaving real good. They didn't look like they was no 17-year-olds. And
I had guys in my 3rd grade class that was shaving.
Okay, but
we shaved and we was in the second, didn't we?
yeah, but it was a long gosh,
For
man.
2 or
The
3
third,
years.
One of them was going to marry their teacher, but he was too old for it.
yeah, 6 years in the 3rd grade. But anyhow, I heard something this afternoon on the radio that we're not seeing on your nightly news. We're not seeing video of this other than like you got. I saw last night there was about 7 or 8 or 15 sitting out here on the bank waiting for the patrols to come.
Right.
Once they found out they was an American. But anyhow, I heard that there's not news media or no one's allowed to take pictures now of where these people are being detained or held. They said that the thing is unbelievable, that you can't stand the smell or whatever else, and they're not allowing this to be reported or filmed or pictured or whatever.
Right.
And I also...
Well, see, they realized here they were smelling before they got there.
Well, they're advertising they need 42,000 pairs of drawers.
Well, I understand.
Homeland Underwear Crisis urgently needed 42,000 pairs.
If you, but I also heard tonight that the Border Patrol agents are not allowed to have cell phones now.
I think not.
Because they'll take pictures or whatever else. So they're not allowed, and they're not allowed to speak or nothing about what's going on here.
Right.
The anybody that has read Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals, this is taken right out of that book, only on a scale that you cannot believe. And this thing, the administration has got to have known about this. I tend to believe that this thing was planned.
Oh,
it's planned.
Orchestrated, yes.
But here's the thing of it. It may blow up in their face. It's kind of like Fast and Furious was planned. But they didn't plan it. They didn't plan to get that guy killed with that rifle. But this thing blew up. Now, it's like Fast and Furious. Did you see how fast it went away? The gun control thing, they was all over us about that thing down in, like where they was straw buying those guns. But the thing it was federal agents that were buying them.
Yeah.
And then we were shipping them. And then the one, we're getting on another subject here, but that bunch of guns that went over, there was 12,000 weapons in that group right there, that bunch that officer got killed in. But all total, if you back on up, there was about 60,000 weapons that had been sent to Mexico through this Fast and Furious thing. And nobody ever says anything about that.
They're having too much success coming across peacefully. You got to create some resistance, or they think they got help up here.
If this is our crisis for this week or last week, and there'll be another one next week. But this one, we're going to feel the effects of this forever. This is going to affect this country forever. You take the last account I had was 174,000 they were expecting to come in this year.
That's
But
underage.
Yeah, but this thing has ballooned a whole lot bigger than they ever thought.
Right.
They're getting more than they ever thought. But you just stop and think of the drain that this is going to put on health care. And another thing, these people that are coming across, they've not been vaccinated. That you have no idea. And another thing I heard is one of the key things that they're really concerned about is TB. It's highly contagious, and it don't take much. And if you've got this many people all bunched together, if you've got an infected person or two, then you're going to have oodles of people infected, and then you spread them all over America. It's going to be unbelievable what we're going to see. But we say that America, and it's always been known as the biggest, the whatever of everything that there is. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll give you a little old analogy that I learned a long time ago. You take the biggest, meanest bear that they ever was out there in the woods, and I put enough hounds after him, I'll run him to ground, and I'll take him down. It don't take, one hound wouldn't stand a chance. But you put enough on him, and you'll get him. And that's this country right here. You prick at this country enough. And this right here, I would have never thought of invading a country with children.
You never thought ahead. If you'd read the books, you would.
Well, I read the book, but I would have never thought about the country doing it. And this rules for radicals.
The Children's Crusade.
Well, in the rules for radicals, they did this to companies. They did it to organizations and whatever. They did this same thing. They inundate them. I can tell you that some of the stories don't want to take a lot of your time up doing it as to how they done it. But this is the same thing that they did on a bigger scale.
Have you read Camp of the Saints?
No, I'm wanting to read it. I'm tied up reading some stuff right now.
Well, I've not read the whole book. I just know the general plot. But
yeah.
That's what you've got working right here.
Well, a country might be able to ward off a foreign enemy like an army or something, but if you take what they're doing right here, there's no way that we can do it, and we can't go out there and just shoot children. It's out of the question. And whoever thought this up, they knew our
weaknesses.
They knew our weaknesses, and this is definitely one of them. And
well,
no end to it.
You know that even the Romans, when the barbarians attacked them, they were afraid to fight back, afraid they would break their fingernails.
Mm.
So we're afraid to fight back, afraid we might hurt somebody, you know.
Well, we can't fight children. I mean, that's just whatever. But these children, there are thousands of others coming along. It's like what I was talking about on them jet skis. Those weren't children jumping off them jet skis. These were adults.
Right.
And we have some coming out of Mexico and South America, some of the roughest.
You can read it online or download either one.
Okay. I'll try to read it. I tell you what, I spend so much time reading, I feel guilty not to. I've got so many other things to deal with and keep up with that I can't keep up with the reading on what's going on. Now today, I've been sitting behind the steering wheel all day, and I've been listening to some of the talk. Now, I just picked up a few minutes ago on something, and it just a little snitch, that the administration now is going to send word down to El Salvador and Guatemala and some of these other countries, that if they would, not to send them because they're going to send them back. And that's BS. That's kind of like that line in the sand. They're not going to be sent back.
Yeah.
I believe there's somewhere, there's a rule or a law in our immigration law that states that if they're underage and they're on American soil, that they have to go through due process. And that means they have to be legally advised of their legal rights. They have to have legal representation. This goes on and on. There's no end to it as to what they have to have.
Something they never had before.
Okay, I picked up on an article the other day, I believe it was last week. The president, and I may have stated this before, through fiat, is going to send somewhere, I just added the numbers up quick in my head, about $200 million to El Salvador and a couple of these other little countries down there to take care of their drug problem and their crime problem, so these people that are here can be sent back safely. And it goes on to all sorts of
We can't even
things.
take care of our own.
Well, there ain't no way that we can go down there and take care of their drug problems. There's no way we can't take care of drug problems here. But this is just a
Camp of the Saints returned to the bestseller list in 2011, 3 years ago. Do you
Okay.
think somebody had this in sight in 2011?
good possibility. But this is not just a coincidence. This is being done by design. Somebody's behind it, and to me, the buck stops at the White House.
Exactly. He takes an oath to defend the borders of the United States, and I feel like that he should be impeached for not doing so.
Okay, I heard another one on that too. I heard someone make a statement that he would be tickled to death if we would try to impeach him, because this would take up all
Yeah.
the other things that's going on.
Yeah.
If you get an impeachment bill brought against him, the things that they're doing right now would just be passing notes. It's kind of like when they're about the blue dress. When the blue dress was on, you didn't hear nothing about everything else that was going on. And he knows darn well that there's no way that he can be impeached. He knows that. It can't be done. But if we would try, that would sure give him a free bill to...
We don't need that.
No, we don't need to even attempt to impeach him. What we need to do is try to survive. But here's the other thing. What happens when Hillary becomes president? She backs everything that he's doing right now, and may even be advising him as to some of it.
Probably.
Most likely. One of Hillary's things that really got my attention back several years ago, and it's still been worked on, is to where that felons were going to be given the right to vote. And the last account I had is whenever they are released, but my understanding to begin with, that they would be able to vote while they was in prison, was the first one that I heard. Now, I don't know if that's far enough.
Yeah,
out there.
maybe we get to voice our opinion after they clamp down on us.
Well, I heard that, but now there was a move here not long ago that whenever you were released from prison as a felon or whatever, that your rights would be reinstated, especially your voting rights. Now, I don't know about your right to your full citizenship to own a weapon or things like that, but definitely your right to vote.
Probably not on the weapons, because that's the last thing I want the citizens to have.
Well, these were the people who were convicted, and this release they did here back several months ago of aliens. I heard that there was about 100 convicted murderers in that group.
Well,
That
at least
were
they got a
released.
trial.
Well,
got
anyhow,
done
fellas,
our part.
blowed off a lot of
Yeah.
steam for what it's worth.
If you need to blow off a little steam and got to build a fire under it first, you need to go down to Diggers, 562-5444, 562-5444.
4-4.
Right in Mill Road and Sawmill
Right now,
Hall. He
wouldn't
appreciate
I
your
check on it
business.
tomorrow or
Bob may
Thursday?
be talking to him right now.
Okay.
562-5444. Digger Wilson's propane gas. He's got it. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, this
Right, that's
thing
5444.
562-5444. Boy, it's an easy number, ain't it?
That's an easy number to remember. Yeah, I'm surprised Digger forgot them last two numbers.
I'm curious as to what's going to be the big crisis next week. I reckon this one will be wore out, but this one was going to stay with us too. I'll take that back. This thing right here, I heard Glenn Beck today, and he's heads an organization, and I can't Mercury something. I can't remember the name of it, but he's asking for funds to assist these people. And it kind of put me in a situation. These children, I understand that they have needs and everything else.
They need 41,000 pair of growers.
right? And they need money and whatever else. And a lot of his, he estimated he would lose possibly 30% of his listeners over this situation. But if he was to lose 30% of his listeners, that might be a fringe benefit of whoever put this thing together to get people to stop listening.
Yep.
Oh, look, why don't we do it this way? You know, these children are being assisted mainly by Mexico coming through there,
They're-
bringing on up here. Why don't we pick them up and take them on up to Canada?
Canada would not stand for that.
Huh?
Canada wouldn't stand for that, buddy. They'd put a stop to that. I kind of facetiously said the other day somewhere that if all the people who supported Obama would go down there and pick up 2 or 3, you know, most of them have got an extra room,
Yeah.
and take them in and take care of their needs, their
Yeah.
schooling, their health care, their clothing and shelter and whatever,
Right.
that would take care of this crisis,
Well,
maybe.
you know, they're letting them in under the assumption that they're going to vote Democratic when they get the right to vote. So I think that all of them ought to be placed in a Democrat, home of a Democrat, so that they will get the proper bringing up on how to vote.
Well,
Well, problem with that is we'd have to send an extra check there.
true. Well, now, if
And
they
then
were
we'd
true
have to enroll them
supporters,
in a free food program because they wouldn't spend the money on the right thing.
yeah, fellers, the bottom line is, and we're already there. We're broke. We're looking at a major disaster as far as our country. Our country will never be the same. I don't think we'll ever
But do you
overcome this
realize
stuff.
all those people that put us in this shape, most of them have a degree in economics.
Yeah, I believe that degree is how they increase their economics, is what it is, not ours. Most of these people, and well, we're looking at all sorts of aspects of this thing. Definitely, the bottom line is these people here are going to have to be taken care of medically, education, everything that goes along with living. And that bill is going to have to be paid for by someone. They're not going to be able to pay it. You take all these, let's take the ones that are coming across that are lying about their age. Let's say that instead of 17, they're 19 or 20 or 21. There's not work here. There's not jobs here, even if they want to work.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, they probably have no birth certificate. So whatever they say they are, that's what they are.
That's correct.
You could cut a foot off and count the rings.
But anyhow, we're in a situation right now. We cannot pay the bills that this country is accumulating. We're going deeper in debt. We've still got our stimulus kicked in, and I don't know how many billion it is.
Wasn't too bad years ago on the debt that we had, because most of it we owed to ourselves. But now we owe so much of it to other countries, China, Japan,
And Russia.
and Russia.
We loaned a lot of money to
that
Russia.
have picked up our inability to say no. And I was reminded of that today. Elizabeth's got a real rowdy dog down there, and I had to cuff him upside the head a couple of times. Well, don't be cruel to him. I said, look, I said, the first thing you got to teach him is what no means. I said, once you get his attention and teach him what no means, then you can train him, you know. And he said, well, you don't have to hit him that hard. I said, I didn't hit him no harder than I needed to. I got his attention. That was the open palm of my hand, you know. I didn't hit him with my fist.
You didn't use a hammer?
Huh?
Didn't use a hammer?
No, I needed to before. That's what we used to get the mule's attention with. But yeah, that's true. You know, we
I read an article.
we are just about at the end of a magnificent road.
No.
I'd say you're right, Bob. We're
Anything important? Okay, see you later.
I read an article. It was an interview with Obama and the First Lady or whatever name. But anyhow, it was in Parade magazine in Sunday's paper. And it was an interview. And I don't honestly believe half of what I heard. The president stated he worked 3 jobs. Well, I don't think he worked 3 jobs at one time, but that was the indication that I got, that he was working 3 jobs. The First Lady was home with the 2 young'uns, and in order to give her some time off, he'd go work out. Well, anybody working 3 jobs, I don't think they got time to go work out if they're working 3 jobs, which I don't think he was.
They ought to be working now.
Well, but yet at the end of the articles, the person doing the interview asked him about their children, and the First Lady said she wanted her children to work at minimum wage so they could understand something about the value or whatever of money. And I kind of took that with what they say, a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's BS. The whole interview, if you get one part of it that seems BS, the rest of it is.
Right.
I don't think the president or whoever's ever worked 3 jobs at once. I believe if he worked 3 8-hour jobs, that'd be 24 hours a day. I believe. But if I could go back on that same analogy and say I worked about 10 jobs at one time. I was a welder, truck driver,
Right.
tire changer, coal shoveler.
Brain surgeon.
Yeah, well, yeah. Anyhow, that's
Well, I
the
worked
you
2
can.
jobs, 2 hard jobs at one time. I had 15 acres of tobacco. I had 5 acres of tomatoes I was growing to sell. I had 60 hogs, 30 head of cattle, corn, wheat, oats, barley, soybeans. We had the whole shoot match, and I was in charge of all of it from the time I was about 11, 12 years old. And so I know what hard work is, but when I got married, I was teaching school and farming in the summer and working a 2nd shift job at Joseph Rizika's book bindery. And that old book there that put the crimp in the back of the book.
Yeah.
You know how they crimp?
Uh-huh.
Well, a lot of people lost their fingers in that machine. You know, it was very
Yeah.
high pressure, a lot of
Yeah.
pressure on that thing.
Like a
Well, I
press.
could run that. Usually they had somebody run on 2nd and 3rd shift. But they found out if they let me work an hour over, I could run everything that was being run on 2nd and 3rd shift, which that's what I did. You know, usually I'd go in about 4 o'clock and work till midnight. But they found if they give me about a half hour off and let me come back for an hour, I'd run everything there. You know, they just cut the 3rd shift man off on that machine.
Well, fellas, that you were motivated.
Starvation
Yeah, you was
Starvation.
motivated.
is one of the greatest motivators that you can have.
Hunger is a great motivator.
Yeah.
It sure is. The
Well, the fear of starvation will put the life in you.
yeah.
By the way, I promised to mention jury nullification. Are you familiar with the concept, Mr. Henson?
Yes, I am. I think we should see more of it. I believe if I was on a jury in certain situations, I would definitely consider that, and I'd probably get kicked off of a jury.
They wouldn't kick you off if you didn't tell them.
No,
Well,
if you didn't tell them, you wouldn't.
You get the intelligent people on the jury. They know, even though the judge says, now look, every criteria has been made to convict this man. You know, they prove this, they prove this, they prove that. So you have 2 choices, 1st or 2nd degree murder, or whatever the trial is about. Well, you still say, I don't think that's a just law. I don't think that's what this law was intended for. So I'm just going to find him not guilty. And a juror has that right.
That is, it's part of the established law is that the jury is empowered to weigh the
Evidence.
yeah, but to weigh the justification for the law and to see if it's fair and just and should be enforced and is being enforced in the way it was intended. You're supposed to, every juror is supposed to try the law at the same time he's trying to defend it.
Right.
But
exactly.
you know that a lawyer can be disbarred for mentioning that.
Right.
He's not allowed to mention jury nullification. They're not allowed to mention it.
I'm surprised, and
I think there should be some changes in that law that would disbar somebody from mentioning that.
I agree with you, Bob, but I'll bet you right now, if there's certain people out there that are listening to us today, right now they're looking for a law that would restrict us from discussing that.
Well, I'm sure they are.
I'm sure there is.
But you know, there are groups who hand out literature
Well,
outside
they
courthouses.
They try to complicate it. All they got to do is got their computer off.
Well, I am more in favor of jury nullification in civil court than I am criminal.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's room for
Well, now you take like this lady that fired the 3 warning shots. Did
Yep.
you hear about that?
Yeah.
And if you had had some faith in jury nullification, they took her to trial, she would have been exonerated.
Yep.
Okay. But yet, in order to keep it to coming to that, the governor hurriedly rushed the bill across his desk, which made it legal to fire a warning shot.
Right?
how do you make it retroactive?
I mean,
The
it's
Oh.
a warning shot. I mean, I can't help if I can't shoot good, and I hit that fella.
Yeah.
that's a very good point. To make it retroactive, you just put heretofore in there.
Is that right?
That's a legal term that
Well,
makes
you
it
can't use
retroactive.
ex post facto laws against people, though.
Right.
Yeah.
But now here's the thing:
Well, that
in
helps
in
that.
civil court, where you've got a man up here for he's filled a mud hole up, and the EPA comes out and says he's disturbed a navigable waterway because it connects to an underground stream,
Right.
or he catches too much rainwater off his house. And I just think that that's where we should be.
What was the essence of the recent Supreme Court ruling? Didn't it limit some of the power of the EPA?
Yeah, but it left in place just as bad, so it didn't amount to nothing.
I think that most significance to it is how they apply it to. We're talking mostly coal-fired plants, and I think what it did is I didn't get to read the article completely, but it had something to do with the timing as to when the plant was started, or something like that. Instead of changing the content or anything like that, it went back to the basics of if a coal-fired plant had been there for X long, that wouldn't apply to it. And
Well, now you've got laws not always enforced according to the law. It's not the local politicians don't necessarily follow the law, but you can't afford to do much about it.
That's correct.
They've got their lawyers paid for. It's hard to find one that'll work for what you can afford to pay them whenever you know you've been screwed.
if you've, just like what you're saying right there, if you try to defend yourself like your constitutional rights, if you
Right.
try to, go ahead.
If you let all this get you down, and then you wind up and take a big swig of rotten tomato juice, who you gonna call?
Well, I'd call Bob. He knows the number to Bible care.
Well, what I do, I call information, get the number for 911, so I could have them to page Vital Care, and that's 562-9370.
562-9370.
Yeah, 9370.
9370.
Yeah.
Well, they got pretty good ambulances, do they?
Yeah, they do. They use them good ambulances, good personnel. You know, they're just top notch. I've been transported by them, and I see them around town, and they're A1. They're tender, loving care. Does not cost the taxpayers any money for you to use Vital Care.
Yeah, that's another thing. Well, you know, there is so much of what's going on as far as our services that could be done by private enterprise. And I heard of a small place somewhere that did that. They switched over to having just about all of their stuff other than police enforcement, I guess, contracted out and so forth. And then the other way to look at it, you take...
If you can't hire your relatives, why in the world would you want to get elected?
Well, we're caught in a situation here. It's like locally. Our school system gets pretty much dictated from the state, who gets dictated from the government as to how they have to conduct, what they have to do, and whatever. The rules, testing.
That's because the counties have not ever put up any resistance.
Of course, what the resistance would be to turn down the money. What we do, we accept tons of money, and along with that money comes the rules that goes with it. They tell us how we have to spend it and what we do with it.
Nothing is free or without some rules, regulations. If you get the money, you're going to do it this way. Just like on the highway fund, what stipulation did they make on the highway fund? Okay, you're not going to get any highway funds if you don't put your speed limit at a certain speed limit. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get any highway funds if you don't require people to wear seat belts. You're not going to get any highway funds if you don't make motorcycle riders wear helmets.
And you're still going to pay tax.
Yeah, you're still going to pay it.
The same amount. That's about like it is here in the county. The logic behind keeping the convenience open, you know, says, well, you might as well keep it open because you're not going to pay any more taxes by keeping it open. So, you know, there's a certain madness, certain message to some of these people's madness, you know.
Well, I get a kind of a facetious way of looking at things sometimes, and I know I shouldn't. I get aggravated. I sometimes make the comment that recycling's the worst thing there ever was, and I say this, I recycle everything and have done it for years and years, but if you look at some of the higher up governments, I'll guarantee you that they don't recycle nothing.
Well, here's the thing about it.
They don't even recycle our money.
Well,
Any kind of recycling that does not pay for itself, it's not self-sustaining, is wasteful of resources.
that's correct. You take, now my wife, she sorted everything and whatever else and so forth and done this stuff. And the garbage truck backs up there and they throw it all in there, crush it, and there it goes. And that kind of bothered her. And after a while, she said, I'll be darned if I'll separate the stuff, so just throw it out there and whatever. But the other side of it is, whenever we recycle something, we're knocking somebody out of a good job, see, somewhere that's making that stuff.
Well, you know, cans, they buy aluminum cans.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see anybody out picking up bean cans and stuff.
Right.
Bean cans. There ain't no money in.
Yeah, they do. A lot of times they slip them in my bag of aluminum cans.
But there ain't no money in steel cans. Not sold as steel cans.
Yeah.
And the reason that they'll pick up an aluminum can instead of a steel can, unless they're trying to slip it over on Bob, is because it costs more to recycle it than it's worth.
That's right.
Aluminum, it don't. It pays its way.
They run a little ad on television that said that one aluminum can, the energy saved recycling that can, will run your computer up against for how many hours, and television for less hours, and that sort of thing.
Well, I'd want more than 2 cents out of my can then.
Right, yeah.
You're going to have to start paying more.
Yeah. I'm going to have to start getting more, too.
Energy. Did I tell you that the International Monetary Fund paid Russia about $1 billion to pay off the gas bill for the Ukraine?
No,
Yep.
Yeah, they.
Do they have branches of the International Property Maintenance Code, people?
Property maintenance, okay.
Well,
yeah.
You realize why, one of the reasons why they stepped in and did that, don't you?
Well, Russia was about ready to shut them off, and also
you also had our vice president's son sitting on the Ukrainian gas board. Did you know that?
no, I didn't know
Yes,
that.
sir. Joe
Okay.
Biden's boy was appointed to the gas board of the Ukraine.
That brings up another subject, or fall back on one. Why in the world would you take a chance on being successful at impeaching Obama? I mean, what if you actually managed to throw him out?
Yeah, right.
What would you do
What
then?
what do you get then?
Boy, I'd demand a recount.
Lord, that would be amazing. But I think Russia is also demanding that they pay as they go now, too.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah,
they
they're
did
going to
that.
pay as they go.
But
so-
I think Ukraine will have to pay that money back.
How?
Well, they had a good part of the $1 billion that they owed. You know,
But they wouldn't pay it, huh?
I don't know why they got behind that way.
Well, they're busy shooting and it's hard to deliver the letter.
They probably ought to, rather than putting Joe Biden's son on the gas board, they ought to put Digger Wilson.
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yeah.
These things are so big and complicated, and even if they weren't complicated, the governments and the people who are in charge would make it so complicated that the average person out here cannot comprehend what's going on.
True.
There's so much involved in it, and that's kind of where it's at. Anything going on the local front, fellas, that we can talk about?
There's an election going on.
Election. You know, it's amazing to me. We're not hearing our county commissioners come out and go out in the public and state their positions on anything.
I think they're all afraid somebody's going to ask them what they're going to do when it comes time to raise taxes. You know, if you're there, he's going to lie or say we're going to raise taxes. And that's when we decide we ain't going to vote for them.
Oh, they'll go down for their indoctrination at Nashville and they'll tell them why they got to vote for a tax increase.
Yeah, we'll go over to our lock picking school and we'll get them started in that direction.
Well, gentlemen, if you look at this thing in an economic or a business type way, I believe Mr. Slusher stated the other day that the value of our property was, I believe that he started at $750 million of real property in Campbell County. And the value, if my understanding was that it dropped $40 million to $710 million.
Yeah.
All right? Now, whenever this stuff drops, it's like when business falls off, your sales tax falls off, everything falls off. Let's say that half of the people quit driving and they're not using fuel or whatever, everybody's getting less tax as far as a percentage. So thus, in order to maintain the level, they're going to raise it. And this is a point of diminishing returns. When it gets to a certain point, first place I looked at this thing was in the water department. And I was at a meeting and they raised the water rate. And the reasoning that they gave for raising the water rate is because that it had rained a lot and people weren't watering their yards and they weren't using or wasting as much water. So thus, they had to raise the rate in order to maintain the amount of revenue.
They never thought of laying anybody off.
Oh no, that's sacrilegious. But the point I'm trying to make is, like in electric, water, or whatever, whenever you raise the rate, you have X many people that can't pay the bill, so they drop off.
I don't remember them lowering the rate when it quit raining.
No, sir, you don't do that. That's a lot of the point I'm trying to make, and nobody takes the time or whatever to go ask the questions. But if you just stop and think about this, every time they raise the rate, so many people have to drop off because they can't pay the bill. Okay? Every time 100 drops off, whatever's left has got to pay that fixed overhead.
We got to get the UN down here. They're going to pay
Well,
off
a lot
so
of
much water
the
bill.
reason, you know, I'm sure some of it was maybe people weren't using as much water, but the sewage disposal here in the city of La Folle Lake and fairly nearby surrounding areas where the topography allows for sewage to be disposed of municipally, is running in the hole. So they're charging all
No
these
pun
people.
intended.
They're charging all these people out in the county that don't have any sewer more money to support the sewer department that's contained mainly within the city. And I don't know what that's right or not. I think if you're using the services, you're the one that ought to pay for it.
True. And if you're not using the services, you should not have to pay for it. But it doesn't work that way in a socialistic society. Everybody has to pay
According to their ability.
Their fair
Yeah.
share.
according to whatever they can afford to pay. But given when I raised a question at that meeting as to
Oh,
what
one thing about it, let me mention something to you. It just crossed my mind. You know, all these people that buried down there in Texas and them graves and everything, undocumented people. The company that handled that, I used to work for.
Bob, you've been around. I'll say that.
Good old North Carolina boys, I
No,
guess.
that's a Houston-based operation.
Oh, I thought maybe it was a good old North Carolina
No,
boy.
that's based out of Houston, Texas.
You ain't ken that North Carolina boy down there that had them there people stacked up instead of cremated?
I don't know. He was independent, I believe. This is the world's largest death care industry that owned that little old funeral home down there in that place that was a burying them people.
It's going to be amazing what we see as time goes on. I see where the price of meat and beef and stuff is going outrageous, and even a good shot of liquor is getting more expensive. And I think we're misguiding.
Even bad shots is more
Yeah,
expensive.
bad shot. If we're redirecting our corn to things other than
Good whiskey.
right, good whiskey or
Animals, yeah.
good beef, and of course the price keeps going higher and higher. I don't care how good or how much or whatever your product is. If you get the price to a certain point, people cannot afford it.
You know, I was the first future farmers in Guilford County, North Carolina, to get 110 bushels an acre off of corn.
How did you manage that?
Well, we had rich corn, had a good season. You know, we started using a hybrid corn.
Okay,
And
I agree. I see.
And what'd you need with corn? You fat your hogs on bagels.
No, that was after I got married. Daddy fed those hogs, most of them. He picked up slop all over Greensboro. He had a trailer, a single axle trailer that was about 14 foot long. Okay, I mean, it was a long old narrow trailer, and he'd carry, I believe he carried 50 barrels on that trailer, and he'd carry empty barrels and trade them for the full barrels at these restaurants, you know, and then he'd bring it back and he would strain that slop, and well, we had all kind of restaurant knives and dishes that got thrown in that slop. That we had some of the best dishes and the utensils in the country at our house, but it all come out of that slop Daddy picked up in Greensboro. And of course, during the Second World War, he said a lot of those barrels were full of cat heads, where they'd kill cats and eat cats at those restaurants.
Well, I've heard my grandmother talk about trading rabbits. You know, back then you didn't call it that. You call it, and it still sticks on when you go trading. And you'd have to leave the foot on a rabbit
Yeah.
Right,
to where that they could identify it as being a rabbit
right.
instead of a cat.
Or a possum.
Or,
Got to leave
yeah.
a foot on whatever you're selling.
Right, to where they could identify it.
That's law.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've eaten many a rabbit, wild rabbit, and many a wild squirrel. And
You couldn't tell a coon from a cat after his skin.
That's right. Once you take the wrapper off, they look much alike.
So they had to have a foot on.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
well, nothing wrong with a coon. I like coons. Coons are a lot better than possums.
Oh, absolutely. And they're not near as greasy, are they? They're not near as greasy.
You
But
eat
anyhow.
them Persian coons?
Huh?
You eat any of them Persian coons? They blue-eyed.
Ain't no Persian coons.
Well, fellas, have we solved the
But
world's
is
problems?
Is a coon a feline?
I don't know.
I don't think they are.
Well, I don't
But,
think
but
so
a
either.
skunk is a feline.
Yeah. And the politician's a skunk, so
Yeah.
the politician's
Politician
felines.
is a feline.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where this election goes,
Right.
Well, I'll tell
locally
you.
as well as the national side. I listened to part of that congressional hearing, a subcommittee on the IRS last night, and
That old guy's awful independent, ain't he?
oh, that guy's laughing at them all the way. He knows that they can't touch him. It's just like Eric Holder with his
Yeah.
Well, see,
contempt of Congress and
see,
whatever.
There's not going to be a whole lot of emails back and forth, even if they find them, you know. Because Lois Lerner, she knew what she was supposed to do. She didn't need any detailed instructions. Eric Holder, he knows what he's supposed to do. He doesn't need any detailed instructions. So those guys, they all are in the same attitude
I'd say
and
most.
thought as Obama.
I'd say most of them emails are in the folder from the Rose Law Firm billing records. We
Yeah.
gotta go, fellas.
Oh well, we've solved the world's problems, or added to them.
Yeah.
We
gonna
may
be
have
on-
added to them.
Gonna be on the radio Saturday night.
We're going to get off here. I believe it's about time to, you going to sing Sayonara to them, R.L., or?
Never was much of one singing unless I was feeling good.
We're going to tell them happy 12th. We'll see them Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock here at UG TV. Also, we're on WLAF as a website, and you can hear us on the radio at 1450 a.m.
Bob looks a lot better on the radio.
Yeah,
See you,
Dave.
folks. Thank
Yeah,
you.
See you, folks.